Good evening. You are listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. I am outside the Xtreme studio on my favorite 5-acre plot. We've got RDV from the Great Midwest, and RDV, I know down here it's about 85 degrees. It's very balmy. It's very humid. It's disgusting. This is the part of the Florida that I always hate. I do have Max and Daisy, however, my short-haired German Shepherd, Czechoslovakian red, non-working lines inside the castle because on my 5-acre palatial estate here with rare citrus trees here in Central Florida, I've got a snake issue, particularly anacondas. And that's the movie we're going to be talking about tonight. So I wanted to ask you, have you ever seen this film? Because this movie from 97 was known for a lot of things, particularly J-Lo's assets, which obviously we're going to talk about.
I will talk up that. I was 12 years old when this came out in 97.
I imagine it's probably a better film if you're 12 than if you're 32.
When you're 12, this is a lot more scary.
It is. I will say this about Anaconda. I have not seen it since then.
Yeah.
I remember going, I love Jon Voight's face in here in every scene. He kept this movie going. It's not a bad movie. It's kind of stupid, but it's done pretty well. And it's actually, I think, above average. But it's not really that rewatchable to me. But the snakes are good.
It's Jon Voight from Paraguay, apparently. But in real life, though, his accent
failed the priesthood.
He's not from Paraguay in this movie. He's from down south in New Orleans with that accent. He sounds like he's Gambad's daddy.
I don't know what Jon Voight channeled for this role. I don't know how he prepped for it. I don't know if I really want to know or go look for an interview. But I absolutely love it. If you're not convinced of Jon Voight's greatness in here to just steal a movie, then watch no further than this, because you got Ice Cube, you've got J-Lo, who's not bad in here.
Exactly.
But it's just everybody's there to be killed.
So the three things when I came to watching this movie, I think a lot of people remember. Look, obviously there's a snake in here, yes, but the three things you remember is, oh yeah, this is where we're gonna see a hot wet t-shirt J-Lo, and then we have the stereotypical black guy saying, "Oh fuck this shit," Ice Cube, and then we have Eric Stolz, who's in 95% of the movie not there. He's just, I'm in a coma, Stolz. This guy went on to be on, I guess, Justified, I think, or some of those other shows. I think
he was actually in some 80s films, and he was actually starting to film Back to the Future.
But this had a huge cast, though. As far as Jon Voight, you had Owen Wilson again. Kari Wuhrer, holy crap in here. Danny Trejo also made a cameo in this too as well.
Yep.
This is when I could tolerate Jennifer Lopez. This, to me, at this point, this was actually, wasn't she dating wasn't she dating Diddy? I think P. Diddy at the time when they were doing this.
Oh, I have no idea.
Ice Cube, because he's in his movie, he had to have his song play. He had his music playing in the movie. So if you hear the rap music, it's most likely his music. Jon Voight was like playing a guy from Paraguay. I'm thinking like he's got his little ponytail here in the back. I'm just like, you sound more like you're from you're Creole from down in the South. But yeah, crazy. The snakes, disturbing.
They look good.
But the reason they were good because they weren't CG.
Exactly. The CG in here is awful. The animatronics are phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, this is one of those movies that we've talked about from the 90s where they tried throwing in CGI to do stuff.
Yes.
When it's animatronic, if they stuck with animatronic, it would have been a lot better.
Yes. So first, basically, describe what it is. They're a National Geographic little thing. They're gonna go this tribe and film them stuff like this. Okay, whatever. So they're on their boat. They come across in the rainstorm. They come across a stranded. Jon Voight. He's on a boat. He throws stuff on there. He lands on top of Owen Wilson, and a lot later on, you find out that Jennifer Lopez finds out this was all planned. That their guide, Mateo, is arranged this to pick him up because he wants to go hunt snakes. It's all this priesthood, So right away, you knew something like this. This is kind of creepy. This is kind of like you're combining a Dead Calm with
Turistas.
Yeah. Well, not in Teresa's. I was gonna say African Queen. Jungle Boat. So Danny Trejo's on here, and Danny Trejo is the first death. Blows his brains out in this.
He does a good job here of convincing you he's terrified of the boards that move by themselves.
Yeah.
Because you don't really see the snake here.
And he also knows he passes the giant podium, so he knows what's going to happen.
Yes.
Second death in the movie, obviously, is poor Mateo.
Mateo looked high as fuck, and he's a guy that I would not want, running my boat just because of the way he looks. I couldn't trust him.
He's been in a few things. His acting career didn't end. He's still doing some stuff.
Okay.
Not a lot. Owen Wilson, come on! Every time it's a second movie
He's
review.
the guy from the cable guy, and he's never gotten any better.
He dies. The second movie review. Are we gonna know this? We watch a third movie where he dies. I'm just gonna start looking and saying, okay, Owen Wilson deaths. How many movies did he die in? But he gets crushed. They could save him, but of course the hunter wants the snake alive because he wants to sell it. He's a poacher, and he gets pulled off ship and then he gets swollen.
That is a cool shot, though. And so one thing they do well in here, a couple things I wanted to point out that make this movie above average. I'm going to start off with Eric Stolz.
Yeah.
He's not an ugly guy. He's not a good-looking guy. He seems like an average guy, but he seems very well composed and very believable. Out of this whole group of people that do okay, I believe him in his role as kind of being the leader. What I liked what happened in this film is the fact that, to your point, you mentioned this at the beginning, it's something you don't normally get. The guy that's in charge of it, that you expect everything to go around.
Yeah. He's bit by a snake.
He is, and so he gets taken out. So Jon Voight does the emergency tracheometry on him or whatever right through it, and that's cool. So the guy that's the most competent, the most knowledgeable, the guy that's banging J-Lo on the side, even though he hired her to be the hunter to take the snake out, he's laid up, and there's really not much you can do. I thought that was cool. What I also like too with Jon Voight's character, he played, I'm not going to say the wise old man or the sage, but he would speak about the evils of stuff of the jungle, and you go, okay. When they talk about how they go up here and there's going to be this waterfall that takes them several days to go around and through it, and then they'll find the ancient tribe and all that stuff. You're going to get that, right? He goes, do you know what it's like to have your bones crushed and hear them before your brains explode because of the pressure of your veins exploding and all that stuff? It sounds stupid, but that's what we get. So you know that's going to happen.
And then when you see when they get to that totem pole, it says you're not supposed to go further. That's where the giant snakes are, and it was like it's higher. It's supposed to keep the snakes from going over it.
Yes.
And they go past that. It's like, oh man, so such a crazy movie. Kari, where is in this? Kari, and I gotta.
Sir.
Very, very. She was dating Owen Wilson's character in this. She was a good character. I like her in this, but unfortunately, she meets her man not at the. Well, they see the snake bites her later, but she's already dead by that point. She was already. Well, let's just say this. Kari Wuhrer goes up to a tied-up Jon Voight, gets choked out, and the joke's coming. We've all wanted her between our legs, but not like this.
Yeah.
Poor girl. Very hot. Was in a lot of movies. I think she was in Thinner, wasn't she? She's a gypsy?
I don't recall.
I think
I just know she was an item at that point. Like J-Lo was coming on her own. You might have known her as a Fly Girl on In Living Color and all that. Who Rosie Perez actually I think was the choreographer for. And J-Lo might have taken her. I think J-Lo did the Laker Girls, so people knew of her. But Kari Wuhrer, kind of like Kylie Minogue or whatever the hell her name is, in Australia.
Kylie Minogue,
yeah, she was an item too. So there's several of these that if you weren't around or weren't aware of it, I mean, you'd be like, okay, she's just another actress.
So here's my theory: they killed up Kari Wuhrer's character because she was hotter than J-Lo in this movie.
I kind of thought that too, because I thought, for everyone who loves J-Lo, I would draft J-Lo in the first round so I could then trade down to get Kari and like another second round pick in another movie. You know what I'm saying?
Because that's
not a draft picks off of that.
That's not a very flattering photo of her in the front there on the left, looking at us in front of Ice Cube.
No, I appreciate her willingness, because of the first scene we see her in here is her beating Eric Stolz, and she's wearing the female wife beater, nipples up and all that too, and with no underwear on, and she was not afraid to show off her body. Because I will say this, going back to the 80s, and this is one thing that J-Lo I think kind of made famous, is that if you're a white girl and you're a model, especially in the 70s going to 80s, you're expected to be skinny, like a blonde with skinny, big boobs. Mm-hmm. But Cindy Crawford and a bunch of them were known for, having curves and being what some people call thick. Not thick by today's standards, but just not anorexic, like they've ate a sandwich or two. Yeah. And so Jennifer Lopez is one of those mainstream ones that came out there that looked athletic, had a natural physical athletic thing for her body rather than just runway model good looks.
Well, that's because she wasn't a movie star. She was a singer.
Dancer.
No, I know, but at this point, when she was already famous as a singer.
No.
Yeah.
Going into acting, then going into singing.
Jenny on the Block.
When was
She
that
had.
though? 2000s.
I think early '90s actually, or late '90s. Her career started going because
This is when she was blowing up. So people were
yeah,
going, "Oh, J Lo's in this," or Jennifer Lopez. Let's go watch
yes,
her.
you know, obviously her acting is atrocious, but it got better. I think by
Out of
oh
Sight was the next movie. George
yeah
Clooney. That's good.
yeah no there's another one with her, and then Ethan Hawke is the villain, the serial killer one. I forget what it's called, but anyway,
That's not her though. That's somebody else.
it's Angelina Jolie. My bad. See,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's so much I don't give her J Lo's okay. So her music's all right, I guess, but for acting, eh. So more deaths on here. We get Jonathan Hyde, the character. He's like the safari guy leader. He goes to hide behind the waterfall, and the snake follows him in there, and he's gone. He's crushed. By this point, that's 5 deaths so far. 4 by snake, one by bullet. John at this point, Jon Voight is pretty much the only one left with them. Guy is crazed. He's gonna lure him into this warehouse, or actually no, he doesn't lure him in the warehouse. What it was is that they're running out of Ice Cube and J Lo are running out of gas at this point, and they see this little hut here. They're like, let's go in there. And when they get in there, well, there's a giant rope in there, and they run into Jon Voight, who had basically survived. And Jon Voight is basically after they killed one of the snakes by shooting in the head.
Yeah.
There's 2 snakes.
Male and a female.
Yep,
They look
yep.
a little different in the head.
Yeah. And so they go in there, and he's gonna tie. He lures the snake in there. The snake gets caught up in the rope. He ties around with the valves, but the snake gets loose, and it chases him up with a ladder, and goes down. And he's pissed. He's like, "Kill me, snake! Kill me! I don't care!" Blah blah blah. And he gets eaten, and then taken. The snake goes away, only for the snake to come back and say, and we get this cool Dead Rising. So wide awake.
That is good stuff.
I was not expecting that. I forgot all about that. The wink. Hey.
Yeah, he did it a couple times in there.
Yeah.
Like when Jella goes to seduce him,
Yeah,
and she's like, well, if you shoot it, I just da 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 da, and you can tell that's what she's doing. It's a setup, and he's like,
yeah.
It's been a long time
So here's the
since I've been
behind the
with a
scenes
woman.
of that. That's the snake they use, and that was inside like the warehouse. I guess they're using that green snake.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of cool. Another thing, how they controlled it with machine. How it's all wires. That's kind of cool how they built it.
Yep.
It's kind of the same technology they use for the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Right.
Yeah. So of course, the last death, because Jon Voight was number 6. Number 7 is the death of Frank Welker snake.
Welker, I thought actually looks phenomenal. It is.
A burning
snake. Great.
Yes. And I did not know this. Frank Welker apparently did the voices of the snakes. He was credited. I never would have expected Fred Jones to be the voice of the snake kind of movie.
Well, it's another income stream, right? Too, dealing with voiceover, you get added to your salary slot. Animal sounds are one thing, because I know the Jurassic Park you mentioned was interesting, because I think 2 movies have been at that point for Jurassic Park, and a lot of people will be like, it's just not realistic because, this type would whatever, and this is the size off of the scale, and you can tell. It's like, we didn't give a shit. We want to see dinosaurs running and eating people, whether animatronic or not. Like
this movie, as you watch it back, once you watch it, you kind of know jump scares. It's been like since 1997. How many years? It's been at least 20 years, almost. And there's some things I remembered, some things I didn't remember. I forgot about Owen Wilson being in this. And I'm like, oh man, it's the second movie I've watched from the 90s. Owen Wilson just dies. It's like, poor guy. He wasn't that famous. He just played the roles that died. He had small part roles.
He was starting to build his resume, you could say.
It wasn't until 2001, I think, he did Behind Enemy Lines.
Yeah,
when he started building up, he's getting a bigger career. But then, until then, he was just random here, random there.
Mm-hmm.
And who would I mean, I never would have thought that J-Lo would ever be head of a movie with Jon Voight. Jon Voight is a phenomenal actor. I like him in this. He's great. And Jon Voight's character, it kept reminding me of Silence of the Lambs. The way he looks, the facial reaction, everything.
He has that same look and all of them.
Can you imagine Anthony Hopkins doing this role?
Yeah, he's the only reason to watch this movie. Now, look, it sounds like I'm shitting on the movie. I'm not. The snakes are great. The problem is this is like what we said before with some other the 90s action films, is that they punch all the right things, but again, the people aren't very memorable. We don't care enough about Kari and Owen Wilson, so when they get murdered, you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. J-Lo only teases us with her body a little bit. We don't really get to see anything. We don't care about her.
No.
Eric Stolz, I thought, started off good, and I like the fact that they kind of swerved us.
Well,
we're going to have them laid up through the whole movie, so they have to figure it out.
I would say 12-year-old cared a little more about what t-shirt J-Lo than I do now. Yeah.
There's one scene with an asshole guy in a hat, who I guess is like the money bags guy. He's the one that brings the go away heat, and he goes over to Ice Cube while they're going up there, and Ice Cube's got his music on the radio, right?
Yeah.
And he just goes and turns off, and it's like, hey man, and so he gets his chance to act thuggy with him and all that too, and the guy's just being an ass. I'm like, Ice Cube, I would love you if you would just kill this guy right now and throw him over, or something would happen then, because he's got the little knife and he's going to go kill him later, and Ice Cube ends up kind of really being the hero of the movie too later.
So Jonathan Hyde is the guy. He's like the safari guy. He's the guy who's in charge of the boat and stuff. He's the one that butts heads with Jon Voight.
Yep.
He's the one that dies. I watched this in 1997. 3 years earlier, little RDV watched a movie called Richie Rich, and it had Cadbury in there. Jonathan Hyde was Cadbury, so I watched Cadbury die in this movie. I was just like, "Ooh, this is not good." I guess snakes like Cadbury eggs. No. Anyway, but no, this movie when it came out, I've never been a fan of anything in the water. I've been in rivers before, but snakes or anything, I'd rather watch Jaws than watch this. You know why? Because at least Jaws is not as creepy as snakes. Snakes are just they have snakes this big. There's a reason why I will never go in the water. It's not because there's a snake in there, but mainly because I don't know what's in the water. Yeah. And you add a snake like this, that huge.
Yeah.
No gun. At least you saw how they shot the snake 3 times, took it just to kill it.
Yeah.
The trank dart didn't do crap.
Yep. Metabolism too.
Oh. So yeah, and there are snakes that do eat goats. And I mean, they're not little goats. These are big goats. And then sometimes they do eat people. I watch River Monsters, man. He talked about that stuff, some of the things they had that would swallow people whole. And I'm just thinking, like, why do we care about the Amazon burning down? If it kills these giant snakes, go ahead.
Wow. Strong opinions there.
Hey, a dead snake is a good snake.
Snakes, we have so many of them here in Florida. It's not uncommon to be mowing your lawn and then
you got pythons now.
Blades. Oh yeah, we have it all.
You got alligators and pythons.
We have Florida, especially central to South Florida, is a bit more tropical than the northern part, so we hardly get any freezing weather. So we have iguanas, we have pythons, we have a lot of species from South America and Central America that have been brought up illegally that just will thrive in here in the whatever. So it's you do have to watch out for snakes. Most of them are actually pretty good. They're not whatever. It's just when it gets a little cool, sometimes you'll open up your garage and they'll be like right there, and you never know what's going to happen with a snake until you open up your garage door and one falls out because it climbed up there and it's like 4 foot long and you're freaking out.
It can cause the ceiling panel. I've read about, and not in third world countries, but here in parts of the United States where they actually had a snake who was inside of the thing and it crawled out and it tried crushing a kid. That's like, oh no thanks.
Like one thing, go ahead.
I was gonna say snakes have their purpose, but when you introduce pythons into Florida, that's a setting of a new movie, Python Gator movie.
Oh yeah, and like I say, when we talked about science fiction films, we've done only a few. We talked about how we talk about population control, and all this stuff, and how it led to like different types of movies and making America feel guilty for being a nuclear power, like Japan with Godzilla and all these themes that come up. And one of them is when animals attack, which I'm really fond of, because you're supposed to respect the power of nature and all that, because nature will be around when we're not. And one thing that I think is kind of neat about here is that no matter what you think about this movie being kind of like a B-level movie, it was very popular. It was a lot of fun. People enjoyed it. it's not very memorable or enticing to rewatch, I think, because the characters are so flat wood and they're just there. You could have almost anybody in it. If they really had better acting and better writing with the characters, we
Yeah.
enjoy it more. But you said something that is very true about not wanting to get into the water. What this movie does do a good job of early on is letting you know that the people respect what's going on wherever they filmed this, whether it was down there or not. You feel like they're legitimately on a boat hunting anacondas, and the threats in the water don't get in the water. And I give all the actors credit for getting into the water that's waist deep and murky and you can't see and doing stuff while they're acting. And I don't care. I appreciate the real world part of doing that and filming it while making a movie, much like I really appreciate the animatronics in here, because the animatronic snakes in here make you go, shit, that's kind of scary. That's kind of terrifying. The unfortunate what happens though is there's a few scenes where they throw in the
Yep.
CGI snakes and it kind of makes you go, okay, this is a little bit kind of goofy and laughable now. Whereas if they had kept it up with the animatronic, I think they had a chance to make this a little bit darker and more adult-like and serious, and a better movie for that.
So this movie was written by Jack Epps Jr. and James Cash. Most people don't know those names, but these are the guys who wrote Secret of My Success, Legal Eagles, and Top Gun.
I mean, that's a good writing crew.
I know. This just randomly have them like, okay, you did all this, game. Now let's do a snake movie. Okay, sure. Like, I guess this would be this is a very simple movie plot. You're just going on a river. We each get picked off one by one.
Yep.
And this guy, no matter what, wants to kill this snake. You know, it'd be like Jaws. If Jaws is like, no matter what, we're going out and people get taken out by one by one by the sharks. You know. Yeah.
Did the killing in this movie by the snakes, did that make you laugh or that make you go, ooh, that's kind of sick?
Well, a lot of this was just not gross, but it was more like it hit me more because it is realistic, because this is what they do. Even the ones that aren't as big as this can wrap around a child and crush their bones, and even adults too, if they're hungry enough. But yeah, these are the snakes in the water and then coming up and then biting you. Ugh, even little snakes, man. The pythons with the fangs, you're dead, and then they swallow you while you're paralyzed. Yeah.
What I don't know is if Snakes on a Plane was inspired because of this. I'm being serious here.
No,
I really don't know if that was, inspired by this movie, because this was a fun movie to go see. This is your standard, summer popcorn.
This
flick,
was
right?
This is like watching a scary movie in a sense to me. And it's gonna be kind of not really scary, but it's gonna be like, okay, it's snakes. We're on a boat. Jon Voight's on here. And you got J-Lo. Like that's your basically your little B-level movie. Actually reminds you of Creature of a Black Lagoon, but with snake that's going to murder people.
I still think the snakes look phenomenal in here, though. I really do,
because they're not CG for most of the part. They actually have, if anything, I think the one that was maybe in the waterfall that might have been CG. That's hard to tell. But at least the waterfall was probably CG when they put
the one where the guy like jumps from the waterfall.
Yeah,
and
they grabs, that was CG. Yes, obviously that part's like that. But the snakes, because you saw how they built them. Like they're pretty much just animatronic, and that's what made them realistic. This is like when I went to the zoo in my place. They had dinosaurs, on the dinosaur thing, and they're all robotic, and they have them outside. And you can walk in there and you see them how they grab things. It's a rubber skin, but if I saw that, dude, that looks realistic to me. Without the CG, obviously without the wires, but I see that, and it's moving in the water. It's murky. It's kind of dark. It's raining. You can't see anything, and then I see that thing just peek its head through there. I'm like Danny Trejo. I'm taking the gun to my head, because there's no way your little pistols or a little rifle is gonna do anything against this thing. And it's just great how they use the animatronic to do things. And honestly, I encourage more of this. If you're going to do more monster movies, use animatronic. Spend the money on it. If you can't spend the money on it, then don't bother making these kind of movies, because this is what makes this movie sells. They started doing the Blood Orchid movies, all the sequels. Lake Placid got a bunch of sequels, and then those had a crossover between Anaconda and Lake Placid. Actually had a crossover series in the movie sequels. Lake Placid is another movie that has some CG with a giant alligator, and like Bill Pullman's in there. I forgot, not Bill Pullman, Is it Pullman or is it Pax? No, it's Pullman, right? Yeah.
Paxton.
No, Paxton's on in the end. No, it's Pullman, the guy from Independence Day.
Yeah.
Paxton's in the other movies, but like I said, I love Lake Placid. Lake Placid is a movie I can watch more than Anaconda. Anaconda creeped me out more because I was like, this is more realistic than the other one. And
Yeah,
you're in the
it's
water.
just that's the thing with this movie. It's really not bad, and a part of me, I'm not upset by it. There's
No.
a part of me though that goes, man, if they just trimmed out the CGI and had a little bit better fleshed out characters. I mean, it wasn't trying to be a dark movie, but it's
Oh.
done well enough where you're like, it could have been mature, almost like a Jaws. You know, Jaws exposes a lot of stuff and all that, and they couldn't show Jaws because I think it was broke half the time while they were filming. That's why it turned out the way it was shown more of it.
But
and so
it worked out.
once you see Jaws, then then it's not scary, at least to me anymore. It's the threat of it early on that makes you terrified of it, and I do think you get a little bit of it in here. So it's above average for the type of movie that it is. I will say that, and the cast is decent. They're not horrible. You're not always going to be great, but this is C plus B minus kind of territory for me. It's not a movie personally I would really watch again, but every now and then I go, yeah, that was kind of fun. But I just go, if you took Jon Voight out of here, I would not want to watch this film.
Yes. So you remember we brought up Jaws. Well, I don't know if you knew that because the cinematographer for this, William Cable Butler, worked on Jaws, also the Rocky sequels. And
really,
yeah. So that's why he kind of grinds you a little bit of Jaws a little bit, in certain scenes, just looking at this had a budget of $45 million. I'm not getting my figures from Wikipedia, and walked away with $136.8 million. So basically, almost $137 million. And for a B-level movie, $45 million, whatever, for a budget, that's kind of average. That's nothing normal,
right.
or maybe not normal. But yeah, I said I'm trying to think of today's movies, the budgets they spend on and then when they flop, they're like, oh my gosh, we lost all this money because they spend way too much on something that shouldn't need to, because all it is CG, because CG costs so much money. And I'm thinking this with the Avengers and stuff like that. Disney puts out so much money on these movies because of CG they want to do. If they just use wire or just use props more, but everything is like we got to capture like video games. Video games use the rotoscope with the ball and stuff, and then they use CG stuff.
Yeah,
but these movies, honestly, with the giant snakes, like I said, and then they're using it's not CG. If this had been all CG, it wouldn't have been as scary.
No,
the fact they actually they're in the water, and it actually is moving in the water. They had the robot thing in the water, like they probably had someone with a stick scuba divers going across, But still, it's like that was freaky about it. That's what makes it more realistic for me.
I mentioned a movie that was on TV in the 70s because we had a lot of disaster type films there and animals attack. There's one with, I think it was a TV movie with William Shatner called Kingdom of the Spiders. I think we may have even reviewed it one.
Yeah, we reviewed it.
Here a few years ago.
All the spiders. And crunch.
The majority of them are real spiders. And so when you see them moving around, even though they might have been defanged or depoisoned or whatever,
I don't care.
It's still kind of creepy, and this movie had a little bit of it with the snakes, even though with the animatronics. And I think what you mentioned too with the cinematographers and stuff that have been on some of these other things, they know how to film it to make it look good. Because this movie does do good with this, where other movies don't. That's they're on the water, they're going somewhere. It's not like they can just get out of the water like you can say in a piranha movie, right? I mean, it's just spitting facts. Yeah. It was because of movies like this and Arachnophobia that, sometimes you get a couple like movies, a couple years in a row that you'll get something like this, and then you think they're going to bust out with a big one, and then they just kind of don't, because then you get eight-legged freaks, which is just goofy. Whereas Arachnophobia, I think, used a lot of real ones.
Yeah.
It makes me think of there's a short, small horror movie that came out a year or two ago that would have been good, except for the writing's horrible, but the spider is really vicious in it, called Sting. A little girl finds in like a hotel. It's pretty good. And I was like, oh man, I'm waiting for that next big avalanche of animal attack movies, because there's something inherently creepy about them. Of like you said, you don't like the water, maybe because you can't swim. There's shit in the water. Florida, we can talk about gators.
I can swim, but I can't swim fast. But I know that these things can go faster.
They're not going to beat anything in the water. Bottom line,
no,
you just aren't. And then there's it's disgusting. So that's primal fear we have of animals.
And when they're swimming in the water. And that's me.
Yeah.
Like,
you're in their world now, buddy.
The other thing I thought about this, I was like, because usually we watch slasher movies, there's always a fun girl, and I'm thinking like, okay, J-Lo's gonna be the last person alive, and then it didn't dawn on me that hey, they're gonna put Ice Cube towards the end here, where he kills the snake with the pickaxe. At the end. Sorry, spoilers for those who haven't seen this movie from 1997, but I do encourage you to go check it out, watch it. Even especially if you're creeped out by snakes, watch it with somebody else. Have some popcorn and just watch this. And turn the lights off and you watch it.
Did you know who he was at the time you saw this movie? What he was famous for up to this point?
I didn't know he was out Compton, straight out Compton. Those guys.
NWA.
Yeah, NWA. I didn't realize he was part of that. At this point, Ice Cube was kind of like popping up in movies, him and Ice-T. So I knew they were rappers. I just know they were in a group together, Public Enemy. I did not know that. But because I'm like, he's kind of like watching Exhibit, Pimp My Ride at this point in 97. Yeah. Apparently Marani's bringing up a quote that Owen Wilson said about his
about dying
movies. It's funny how it usually works out that I end up dying. It sort of works out because by the time I die, I'm usually tired of working on that particular movie. So I look forward to it. That's funny. Yeah, but I didn't realize that Owen Wilson died a lot in these movies. Like I'm like, this is the second one around. I'm like, is there a lot of movies? I'm curious now. I need a list of movies that Owen Wilson has died in. Like, is it a big list or is it just these two movies? But Eric Stolz. I love this basically what I have here for the background. It's Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Jon Voight, Eric Stolz. Why? Because Eric Stolz not even in this movie. He's in coma pretty much, or passed out. He's pretty much knocked out for like 95% of the movie. He's basically in the first 15 minutes, and then he gets bitten by a little snake, and then he's basically got the trachea, and then he's gone for the rest of the movie.
You know how hard it is to not, when you think about this movie, like if I go to work and I'm in a business meeting or something like that, and there's people I don't like in it, it's not walking there wearing the expression Jon Voight has this whole movie, that upside down frown, and that little glimmer in your eye. It's absolutely incredible. And he's pointing to his face about how the snake, had to eat him. Trust me, this is how I know, and the way he talks, I'm like, you're crushing it, John. You're showing all these fools what a real actor is. I don't know, but man, I would be laughing my ass off working with this guy because it's so cool. Or I'd be wanting to elevate him because he kills it. He kills it. He crushes it.
The thing is, though, one guy gets a snake and he thinks he's gonna try and transport this snake what's under and then carry it somewhere to for poultry because somebody wants it in their private zoo. It takes a whole crew. You saw what they did with the T-Rex, how they got it over.
Yep.
It takes more than just one guy, and there's no way. And this little Darcy's doing. You need to have elephant trunk, or not, at least big enough. And like, how does he know? He's just guessing at this point. It was just a horrible plan on his end. Like this is like you just sending a Creole boy in to go after a shark.
It's like when you're a kid, you're going to run away from home and you pack all your clothes in that one shirt, you tie it to the end of a stick, and you're going to leave. And your parents are like, okay, you want a sandwich or anything? No, I've got everything I need. Just think about it. Then
I have my pride and my Bazooka Joe and my one comic book.
I don't need you anymore.
I should have brought extra socks. My socks are wet now. My shoes are dry.
All right, final thoughts, Anaconda.
Final thoughts. This is probably, I don't know, I haven't looked to see what it is on IMDb as far as rating, but I would rate this probably out of 5 stars. I would rate about 3.5. Right around there. It's good, but it's not great. But it's also not bad either, or average. It's just above average.
Yeah, I'd say
check
that
it out. Yeah, like I said, it's ironically hard to find.
If you're trying to understand what the 90s are like, you need to watch Anaconda. Because a lot of the action movies are slightly different, as well as these types of movies here too than the 80s. In the 80s, this would be a totally different movie. It would be an action film. This movie's not an action film. I don't think.
No. If this was in the 80s, it'd be called Gator. Which is I'll be putting on a list probably. Like I said, in a future list, but we might throw a Deep Blue Sea, Gator, and Lake Placid on a poll eventually. But yeah, dude. This is a trip down memory lane. 12-year-old Venkman basically pretty much like, hey, Jello's kind of hot. She's in the water. Score. Because like 97. when you had dial up, takes forever.
Yep.
Anyway.
The cable guy I mentioned, he was the chicken man in here, where he's like, "Come on, man, have you even killed the chicken yet?"
Oh yeah,
And the
I
girl's
forgot about that.
like, so what? He says something to him. He's like, "You're sexy." What? You heard me. And then he gets his ass beat by Jim Carrey. When in the bathroom, it's hysterical. The other person that was in that movie that I wanted to mention with Anaconda here for my final thoughts is Jack Black, who's been in forever everything. He does absolutely nothing for me. I guess he can carry a tune. I know he likes music. I just don't care for the guy. He was somebody in the 90s I never thought would get big like he did. Same thing with Owen Wilson, because they're just sort of there. They're filler to me. And the point is
like
they're looking at trying to remake this movie, I think, with him in it. I'm like, oh, dear fucking Lord. It'll be worse. It'll be bad. It'll be embarrassment to this film.
It'll be like Goosebumps. No, watch it. No, but Owen Wilson, dude, like I said, he turned out to be a really good actor given a chance. I liked him in Behind Enemy Lines when you give him stuff like that. Meet the Parents.
He's forgettable to me.
Oh. You know what's even more forgettable is his brother Luke Wilson.
Well,
who was an old school bro with Alicia Cuthbert as the dean's daughter. And the only reason I bring that up because I was getting my food yesterday at the Texas Roadhouse, and it was on the TV. I'm like, what is this movie? It's got Lee Remini in here, and then here comes Frank the Tank. Come on, guys, you're streaking.
You're my boy.
Yeah, but very fun movie.
Talk about somebody who's fallen far off the hill. That I'm looking at you, Will.
Oh my God. We're gonna continue with more '90s movies. Leave your suggestions down below, what ones we haven't done yet, and then we'll check out for the polls happening on Tuesday nights after our movie reviews.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that participated in tonight coming
over 1,000,
over 1,100 votes on our last.
I better see 1,100. I better see 1,100 views on this one because I gave up 2 hours of my time to watch this again.
Yeah, it's okay. There's worse to watch. Yeah, we'll have another poll up Tuesday night too. We don't have an announcement for Tuesday night yet, do we?
Man,
I'm talking about the Terminator.
Either Terminator. I'm looking at
the animated Terminator.
The animated, yeah, we want to review that, but I'm also leaning at maybe reviewing maybe The Fugitive.
Interesting.
Because I haven't seen that in a while. And I've recently watched U.S. Marshals in the past couple of years, but I never have gone back to watch The Fugitive. All I remember, yeah. So
there you go.
All I remember from this movie so far, Fugitive, is the fact that he escapes and he shaves his beard off.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't get my wife. I don't care.
Yeah. And Tommy Lee Jones.
It's great writing. Yeah.
Yes. All right, guys. So you know the drill. If you like this content and you want to see more of it, let us know down below in the comment section. Also do the clicking, the like, and the subscribing. Make sure your notification bells are turned on your phone and also through the YouTube website on your PC. Make sure that you are able to get notifications. And guys, thank you for all being here, man. And thank you for those who watching on the replay. Marani for being here live. And then at least got 4 people watching now. But only Marani's commenting. But that being said, hope you guys had fun, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Good night now.
Later, guys.